back with some adventures in streaming. I tackled Robert Eggers' 2022 film, The Northman, one that was eagerly awaited by a lot of people, especially from the A24 camp of fans, who kind of turned Robert Eggers and Ari Aster into kind of icons of, I guess, modern indie horror, or even what some of them call elevated horror. So I'm not here for that debate or discussion or whatever for this video. I've talked about A24 plenty in the past. This is not an A24 feature. It's a lot of little companies worked on it together, but big company was Focus Features, which has been around for ages. As I recall, if I recall correctly, it started as James Seamus's company. He had a stake in it with Ang Lee. Ang Lee. Focus Features released some Ang Lee films that James Seamus had co-written or written. Ironically, the same year they worked on American Splendor, they worked on Hulk. It's very strange. Two very different comic adaptations, both very kind of lost in the shuffle these days. But they've done tons of other stuff, and not just Ang Lee movies. So, they're kind of a big, proponent of indie or experimental kind of non-commercial or not as commercial films. That having been said, this is Robert Eggers' biggest budgeted film, and obviously he probably needed Focus to really kind of give him what he needed, which was kind of an epic sweep to things. It's got all his idiosyncrasies and like the witches, meticulous attention to period detail, and it has the lighthouses, very strong kind of avant-garde visual and lighting sense, although this is in color. However, even that being said, and having noted, and I'm noting that those passages that are very cinematic are very beautiful to behold, it still has a slightly more, relatively speaking, mainstream look. It's slightly more accessible, slightly more focused in on story than on the cinematic qualities. You could say that about the lighthouse, except the look of the lighthouse and a lot of the visual choices he made do kind of overwhelm the story, because there really isn't, to me, Lighthouse really doesn't really have a story per se. Another thing that it kind of borrows from Lighthouse is Willem Dafoe playing a crazy guy with a wild accent and reveling in it. Obviously, he's having fun. He's pretty likable in this. He doesn't have a major role. Basically, there's a few parts to the movie. I guess chapters. I forgot the names of all of them. But they're announced in runes and then with subtitles of what they mean in English. Act 1 focuses mainly on, I'm going to locate the actions of this. Maybe I did a little research last night. Not a lot, but a little. Maybe 12th century, 11th century, 12th century, Northern Europe. I don't know, Scandinavia. I'm not exactly sure where. I'm sure Robert Eggers knows. Basically, see, what I was trying to figure out through this whole movie is, because, the main character, played by Alexander Skarsgård, HAMLET, who is himself a legendary figure. He's not a character that Eggers made up. Hamlet is a very old literary character from Old Norse. Um, and part of his saga was told in a collection of writings called the Prose Edda. There's also the Poetic Edda. Um, a guy named Snorri Sturluson, around, they pinpoint around 1220, 1221, uh, collected these and probably wrote most, if not all of them, from legends he had heard, probably, oral traditions or what have you. They're very definitive. There's the roots of all the great northern myths. I mean, everything about the gods, the Norse gods, from the creation of Ragnarok is in there. The Nibelungenlied, which of course led to, the Ring of the Nibelung by Wagner, and Fritz Lang's Die Nibelungen movie, which I reviewed on this channel. Check it out. And then other legends, and one is HAMLET. HAMLET was eventually repurposed by William Shakespeare as Hamlet. I guess repurposed is a kind way of saying, I don't know, maybe Shakespeare used the term reimagining back then too. Ripped off, that's fine. I mean, I'm not saying Hamlet is, worthless, because it's inspired by something else. But after watching even this movie version of Hamlet, you can definitely see Hamlet. But it's that I'm sure Shakespeare was gripped by the dramatic elements of it. And it's interesting because throughout the movie, I feel as though Eggers might have been better served, though might have been challenged even more financially and resource wise, and film length wise. I almost feel like he would have been well served doing a adaptation of Story of Siegfried and the Nibelungen. Kind of wish he would, but now maybe it seems like it's just going to be a retread after this. This is a very dark movie, and when I say dark, I mean it's very darkly lit. Sarsgaard's performance is until almost the very end, is fairly unwavering. He's kind of, it's about vengeance and his single-mindedness towards vengeance. All right, I'm kind of rambling. So here's what it's about. Basically, the Hamlet character as a kid has these two parents. One is played by Ethan Hawke. He's been off, doing adventures and bringing resources or whatever for the kingdom, which is basically, their small little place they've carved out somewhere here in Scandinavia, and conquered through, of course, violence and brutality as Vikings and Norsemen. That's kind of how they did it. And his wife, played by, of course, Nicole Kidman. It's like directors are like, hey, we need a woman in this period. Get Nicole Kidman. It's like I don't know. You could kind of almost predict that every few movies Nicole Kidman will be the star or the co-star, the queen mother, or the mysterious, elegant woman, the glam, and I personally despise Nicole Kidman's acting, with very, very few exceptions, and the ones I name would be laughed at by probably everyone watching. But that's just the way I feel about it. I know she has a lot of fans. I will say she's pretty much game for anything after doing movies like Dogville and Birth and bunches of others. This is another one where she kind of goes out on a limb. But Nicole Kidman is an actress who brings a lot of attention to her acting. It's very hard for her to transcend that and just be the role. She's definitely not a method actress. I'm not saying that's good or bad. She doesn't say a lot for most of the movie, and I was thankful. I had my suspicions about her character, but at first I thought it's just because I don't like Nicole Kidman, and I'm just being, kind of unfair to the character. Well, it turns out I was right. The character is quite an absolute monster. And once that's revealed, Kidman does pretty good, and she kind of treats it as though it's Shakespeare, and acquits herself fairly honorably, and has a wonderful, and there's a wonderful cathartic scene involving her. Anyway, so she's the waiting mother for Ethan Hawke. Ethan Hawke is very good in this. He's not in it very long. And he's killed. He's killed by his brother, played by this guy I've never heard of named Claes Bang. I think I've got his name right. I have to say, this is one place Eggers, I think, has succeeded in taking these archetypal, dramatic, iconic, melodramatic tropes that are very Shakespearean and also very much a part of the Eddas. Storm Undrung. And this character, Fionir, who is the brother of the king, Ethan Hawke, he kills the king. Kill the king. Anyway, so yeah, and this Claes Bang character, Fionir, he kills his brother, steals his bride away, and the little boy's traumatized, the young child named HAMLET. And he goes and hides, and they apparently believe him to be dead. Certainly, Nicole Kidman thinks so, and I'm not sure if it's not made clear if whether the brother Fionir, if he tells her he killed him just to kind of put it at rest, or he's gone for good. I don't know. There's so much deception in those two characters, and in their offspring. They have two children together, and they stay together for well over 20 years. That's one of the twists, is that this guy, he forages as a kid, and he grows up, and he grows into a slave, and a guy who rows boats and does manual labor. His hair's long. He's extremely muscular and ripped. I mean, Sarsgaard is way more ripped than he was as Tarzan, which is kind of odd if you think about it, because Tarzan's supposed to be, just about superhuman. Though, the movie doesn't show him without a shirt very often, so they don't really exploit it. I'm not saying they should or shouldn't. I'm just pointing out he got that ripped, and it really is not much. Maybe he exploited it in another movie he made after that. Sarsgaard's always kind of left me a little cold, lukewarm, not really cold. He's fine. He's just never grabbed me. He's powerful in this, though. I mean, because the thing is, his character is basically reduces himself to this mantra. I will avenge my father. I will free my mother. I will kill my uncle. And that's kind of what keeps him going through all these years of slavery and bondage, and, when he's actually the heir to this kingdom. He was the rightful heir. He was the firstborn son of the king. King's brother now has these two children who are heirs. What fuck-ups they are, man. What I was going to say before I got off track was that this Fionir character, as embodied by this actor I've never seen before, a very unpleasant. He's a very unpleasant looking person. I mean, I'm sure Claes Bang is a great guy. He's just acting, but he just looks like a piece of shit. Let's just. I mean, he's dour. He's evil. He lies. He boasts. He's very animalistic. And that's an interesting take Eggers gives to this era of these Norse people, is that, he doesn't really portray them as they are in the Edda, as kind of semi-civilized, fairly civilized in these intrigues. They're really not that civilized. They scream like animals, and they, run around naked, and of course they're very tied up with their religion and the gods and magic and a lot of superstition. And that's really the saving grace of the movie, is the fact that these uh, peoples are they're close to the gods, and the gods are, at least through the lens of this film, through the POV of the main character. Maybe it's just him, but there's other clues too with other characters. Essentially, the gods are real. The Valkyries are real. You know, the witches and practitioners of magic are real, and different ones appear at different times to serve different functions. That's kind of what keeps the script on a literate, uh, interesting storytelling thread. Because there's really a lot of really long stretches where it's very darkly lit, and uh, Sarsgaard's eyes are kind of hollowed out. He's just, gripped by this animalistic lust for vengeance. There's a lot of, a lot of cruelty. Uh, See, basically, Fionnier takes the kingdom, and then that's just it, And then all these years go by, and finally, HAMLET, who's kind of doesn't really go by his name or really any name anymore, as fate would have it, and I think he kind of conspires to trust to, kind of bargain with fate here, because his will is strong. That's one thing I like about his character. It's indomitable. And that's another thing I liked about Siegfried and those kind of characters. Part of that was their faith, and part of it was the belief, Odin the All-Father will empower me. If I fight a noble fight and die a noble death, I will go to Valhalla, borne aloft by the Valkyrie, and I will be in the Hall of the Heroes and drink of their mead. And I've always loved Norse mythology and that romance, that doomed romance aspect of it. The touches of it in this movie are less frequent than I would have liked, but when they appear, they're really powerful to me. I thought they were really effective, and they kind of save the film really from this mundane kind of just slog of, darkened scenes, half naked dudes slogging through the mud, screaming, roaring like animals, fighting, killing each other. And, I wonder if, in a way, Eggers isn't commenting on masculinity and the masculinity that was considered the masculinity back then, and maybe reflecting it off of how it is considered today, because uh, the Sarsgaard character, I think he is so determined to be strong and hard for when his time comes to gain his revenge. So we have to inject some female energy into this, and the feminine energy in the movie is interesting because it is mostly, not wholly, to do with magic and witchcraft and Congress with the gods. Bjork plays this character. I think she's listed as Cirrus. Her outfit is incredible. The lighting is incredible, and her accent's incredible. She is, to me, the most visually and orally striking character in the film by far. Unfortunately, she occupies perhaps 5 minutes of screen time, maybe a little more. And that saddens me. I was hoping she would reoccur. But the major mystical feminine energy character we're getting is Anya Taylor-Joy, who, of course, was in Eggers' The Witch, who acquitted herself brilliantly, and has done really fine work since then. I liked her a lot in The New Mutants. Of course, she's been a star on a couple different TV series. She's been on Peaky Blinders, and then the one about chess, and various other movies. Those crappy Shalmayan movies, Split and Glass, which I detested. but she's great, and she likes to do accents, and she's doing it again. You know, this isn't that different than a Russian accent for Ileana and New Mutants, but uh, it's cool. You know, I mean, the accents are cool. They're not over the top. The dialogue is over dramatic at times, but it knows when to quit. It goes for minimalism. That's what I've always kind of thought. If you're going to go in that area, and I try to do it in my own writing when I have characters who speak thusly, the ponderous, over, you know, excessive verbiage, it doesn't stand the test of time. It comes off as corny. I think you should keep it minimal, make it minimal and tight and powerful. Choose your words carefully, and they'll have power. And then once you do that, you're fine. Too often, a lot of people who came after Shakespeare or grew up reading the King James Bible, you know, their melodramatic characters of period movies would have some of those incredible phrases, but then they would just go on and on and on and on and on. And you know, I mean, Stan Lee in Marvel Comics is one of the most egregious examples there is, which is why a lot of his scripting, which is really just rewriting of other people's scripting, mostly, not always. A lot of it has not stood the test of time to the point where it's almost distracting. Again, in my opinion. But a lot of people who go on and on about Stan Lee being the coolest, if they really sat down and tried to read some of those books like Thor and wade through some of Stan's, you know, excessive verbiage, yeah, I don't think they'd make it, man. I don't think they'd make it. That's why you should concentrate on the Kirby art and concepts. So anyway, and it's interesting that I'm saying this because this movie is ultimately inspired by the same thing that the Mighty Thor comic book was, the roots. And you know, I read the prose and poetic Eddas when I was 11. I was in the 6th grade, and Roy Thomas actually had just taken over writing the Mighty Thor, and I was already reading books like Edith Hamilton's Mythology, Bullfinch's Mythology. I read at a really young age. My dad had a 1939 hardcover copy. I read the hell out of that thing. And then the kids' version, the Dallaire books, like Dallaire's, Dallaire's Greek, Gods and Myths, but of course mainly Dallaire's Norse Gods and Giants. And I would check these out of the library constantly, or just sit in the library and read them and pour over the illustration. I loved Norse mythology, and the comic book Thor got me into it, and I got obsessed with mythology in general, Greek mythology, also kind of via Thor, but then I branched into all kinds of others. It became a lifelong fascination of mine, and still is. But you know, I read the Eddas when I was young, and you know, I was because Roy Thomas had taken over the book, and he recommended them on the letter page, and he mentioned Snorri Sturluson and when they were compiled, and a lot of the ideas and the myths and the story cycles. And no one had any idea at that point that he was actually going to end up adapting the Nibelungen Lied, albeit the Wagner iteration, in the pages of the Mighty Thor over 5 or 6 issues, which was incredible, really incredible. But again, it's something that nobody cares about nowadays, but that's okay. So yeah, Hamlet. Okay, so here's the deal. He's a slave, and he, like I said, he somehow works his way into the same proximity of the kingdom that he escaped from. He meets Olga of the Birch Forest, that's played by Anya Taylor-Joy, and she is basically a witch. And he himself has visions. So that's what I mean by the characters are close to the gods. You know, they consult like people for divination. One character who is part of Asshole's kingdom, Fiona's kingdom, keep forgetting the actress's name, but she's the older woman who played it, Mandy, who played Jeremiah's number one, you know, adherent slash sex puppet. And then she went on to play, you know, an aging Sally Hardesty in a Texas Chainsaw movie. I haven't seen the latter. Of course, I've seen Mandy. But anyway, I think I get why Eggers cast her, and she's kind of a weird witchly character. But there's definitely a tinge of evil, and I think Eggers also tackles the caste, CASTE, the class problem, because you know I kept asking myself. And I think Eggers wants you to ask yourself, because the character himself sometimes begins to falter, HAMLET, and question his quest. Is it worth it? And of course, Olga does quite a bit. Like, is this worth it? You know, we can go away and be happy together. Of course, they become lovers, and she helps him quite a bit. And, you know, so the question is he doing the right thing? And there's a bait and switch kind of thing close to the end. Well, you know, around the end of Act 2, beginning of Act 3. It's a really long movie. Well, 2 hours, 20 minutes long. And where I'm starting to think, oh, maybe I'm trying to, like, assess the family. Like, okay, so the mother is still with the guy. That, to me, was a red flag right there. She didn't look the least bit unhappy. They have 2 kids. Okay, so one guy is kind of his name's Thorir. Nothing Thor-like about him. He's an extreme dandy. I don't know if he's supposed to be homosexual, but he's very effete. He's very cruel and sadistic to the slaves. He's stuck up. Obviously, he doesn't work at all. He's too pretty to do that. And then there's a young boy. I can't remember his name. The youngest son. And he's extremely pretty and delicate. And don't get me wrong, when I was that age, I was pretty and delicate too. I wasn't rich, but I didn't do sports. I didn't do manual labor. My dad gave me a hard time about it. So I got a job. He's like, now get some calluses on your hands, boy. And but this kid's ridiculous. I mean, you talk about white privilege. I mean, these are like the white people, the Norse. You know, this is white. You know, this is white supremacy here. You know, there's just Norse people here, and they even treat other Norse people as slaves. They're so supremacist. They're so much into supremacy. You know, other white people are slaves. So there's that class thing rather than a race thing. So that's the lens through which I analyzed the family when you start to meet them 20 years on, after you've gone through the struggles of HAMLET, going through struggle for survival and slavery, and building himself up and learning to fight and being strong and just obsessed with vengeance. The family I'm trying to think. There's really not a way I can describe this in a way I think that would match maybe what Eggers sees it as. I haven't read any interviews with him about it. As of right now, I'm not really interested in reading any of his interviews about it. I've read interviews with Eggers just incidentally. He's never interested me that much. I know that's heresy among modern, you know, film fanatics and horror fans. There's nothing against the guy. He just doesn't interest me. In interviews, he doesn't say anything that I haven't thought of before, or that he doesn't have any ideas that haven't been done before. I think his work speaks for him. I like The Witch a lot, and I respect The Lighthouse. I don't know if like might be too extreme a word, but I respect what it is for sure. I think this is kind of like give Eggers some money and some other big stars like Ethan Hawke and Nicole Kidman and some other character actors we've seen before. and we're going to um, go all in on like an epic, and it's not going to be, you know, slow and whimsical, not whimsical, but rustic like The Witch. And it's not going to be, I mean, there's really going to be a payoff. Like The Witch, the payoff is at the very, very end. In The Lighthouse, they're frenzied and it's almost like a comedy. And I've had people tell me that it's supposed to be a comedy. Maybe I should read interviews with Eggers. I kind of feel like he would deny. I can't tell it from interviews, really. I guess I shouldn't bone up on this, but he's hard to tell. He's a little cryptic in the interviews I have read. I can't tell if he is pretentious and really thinks the stuff he's doing is like the most brilliant stuff on earth, or he's very humble and he's kind of winking at us while he's doing it. I hope it's the latter, but like I said, I really don't care. Um, but anyway, I do want to read up on the Northman. I'm just not interested in Eggers' philosophies or whatever. I am interested in interpreting his work, and I may be interpreting it wrong. He may not have intended any of this. But to me, there is a commentary to be gleaned about class. And so what I was going to say in very crude terms, please excuse me, is that the family, the uncle who killed his brother, took his kingdom, the wife he took, Nicole Kidman, the queen mother, the you know, dandy fop sadist older child, and then the just unbearably goofy and silly and spoiled little kid, little prince, Le Petit Prince. They're scum. I mean, I don't know how else to put it. I mean, they have no redeeming qualities at all. There's not one thing any of them do or say that has any positive energy. You know, everything is cruelty and punishment and slavery and conquest. And I wonder, that's what I'm saying. I wonder if Eggers is commenting on like the Norsemen. Like a lot of them, maybe that's just how a lot of them were. You know, they were assholes. Maybe they weren't as heroic as they depicted in the Edda. You know, maybe Siegfried really was a cock. I mean, you know, that would really disappoint me. But if Eggers did the movie, that might be his conclusion. But HAMLET is a good person. That's kind of what they root out is there's a key scene toward the end. There's a couple of key scenes toward the end. I'm getting ahead of myself. Okay. So things drag on for a time and they do not know he's HAMLET the slave. They abuse him and torment him. But then they do some ridiculous sport with throwing a ball at a stick. It's the worst scene in the movie. It's really stupid, but it serves its purpose. I guess. Well, I think one of its purposes is to show, hey, look at these sports these Vikings did back then. But I think dramatically it serves the purpose that the guy HAMLET is involved in, and the guy he's competing with, is very violent and will do anything to win. And the little spoiled Petit Prince jumps in, and the guy's going to kill him. You know, I don't know why the kid jumps in, but again, it's that entitlement. Like, oh, there's these giant guys. They won't hurt me. I'm the prince. I can do whatever I want. I'm going to win the game. That's exactly how he acts, you know. And the other guy's like, fuck this. He's going to stomp him into dirt and kill him. He knocks him unconscious, and they think the kid's dead. But he's not. And HAMLET saves him and beats the guy to death. And again, kind of reverts into his animalistic, you know, pure violent, his berserker rage. So they make him kind of a favored slave. Of course, his younger half brother, the middle brother, Thorir, you know, he's like, you will have certain privileges. You will be able to tell the other slaves what to do, and you will be able to take a woman of your choosing, even the blonde woman, because father found her distasteful. You know, because the father takes the woman. The father takes Anya Taylor-Joy. He's going to fuck her. I mean, rape her. and she resists him, and he gets tired of trying. Um, like I said, they're scum. And talk about toxic masculinity. That this character of Fjolnir, he really is. That's what he is. You know, you never really show him having sex with anyone, but you know he does make out with Nicole Kidman, and he does lust for Olga, and you know, and he likes to run around butt naked and showing his ass quite a bit. Maybe not enough for some viewers, maybe like me too much, you know, because it's framed in a way to where it's like so blatant. You know, like there'll be this like, you know, scenario and this mise-en-scene, and they've just got over some battle or some great event, and then he's over here in the frame and the light's like super clear, and it's his whole, you know, backside and his ass protruding, and it's just holding on him for like 5 seconds. And I mean, I guess Edgar's is like, class bang, I want to bang your ass, baby. And it happens again toward the end. And when it happened again, I was laughing, even though the context was depressing. I'll get to that. So, and finally, you know, Hamlet doesn't listen to the advice of his girlfriend, and even after all this mystic shit, and he has these visions of the future and all kinds of wild visions and things that she tells him, and he just can't fucking resist. He goes to his mom. Now, like I said, I'm observing the family here. You can tell that she's a piece of shit. I mean, you can just tell she's in on it. She's part of it. You know, she's not being held against her will. She had 2 more kids with the guy. You know, she's loving it. She loves the power. And that's what I mean again by class, because there's a smug satisfaction and joy and almost like a sexual ecstasy that crosses the faces of Fjolnir and the Queen and Thorir whenever the slaves are working or tortured or belittled, or you know, it's like, we hold your fate. You're dirt. You know, you can die whenever I feel like it. And it goes in that direction. So he goes and he decides he wasn't as observant as I was. He decided, oh, mommy, you know, avenge my father, free my mother, kill my uncle. At least by this time in the movie, he stopped like chanting it all the time. And she's kind of a bitch. You know, let's just be frank. And this is when her acting is actually pretty good. And because I was expecting they were going to try to make her somehow, you know, Nicole Kidman so glamorous that she's going to be the put upon, tormented. I didn't mean to do it, but I, you know, like I'm part of it, but I can't help it. And but it's nothing like that. It's exactly what I should have suspected in the beginning. It's what you see evidence of before that. The things she says to him are foul and horrible and degrading. You know, she insults Hamlet's father, Ethan Hawke, as a man, as a human being. She makes fun of his hobbies. She makes fun of him, you know, sexually. She says she's always in love with the brother, and he was great in bed, and she goes on and on. And she fathered the kids with him, and she loves it, and he's you know he's like, speak no more, your words are poison, and I like the way he says it. I mean, this is an example where they use this kind of dialogue, this kind of dramatic dialogue in a very minimalist fashion with good timing at good points, and it's spoken with conviction and power. And The scene with these two is really a powerful scene. She's like really intense. I'll give her that. And of course, I don't need to say Alexander Skarsgård is intense because, I mean, from the first frame he's in to the last, he's intense. That's his whole, you know, he's goes from zero to nuclear. He's never on zero. He's in the movie, he's nuclear, and then that's it. You know, there's, I mean, the only possible fate of his character and progression happens, and I'll get to that. And it's satisfying. It was satisfying to me. After all that angst, a lot of angst, because you know, Act Two kind of just drags a little. Some of the scenes where he's slogging along and skulking and plotting and planning and sneaking around and doing slave things, and you know, the scenes are a bit protracted. I think this scene could have been shorn maybe 20 minutes, solid 2 hours, and it still would have been an epic. But what do I know? So what's great about this scene is she says all this trash. She's everything that I was afraid she would be. That she I was just thinking, it's man, with her playing that character, she's probably turned into this character. But they're not going to do that. They're going to do the predictable Nicole Kidman. But you know what? They don't. Well, see, there's two scenes. Okay. I'm about to get confused here. There's a scene where they confront, and she starts giving this long melodramatic speech, and it is extremely over the top. I mean, if it didn't fit the material, it would be prime Kidman acting mode. But it works for that scene. And it gets so weird that she keeps getting closer and closer and closer to him, and you feel this weird, uncomfortable, like, is this really where it's going? And it goes. And she just starts French kissing the fuck out of him, tongues in the throat, and then he pulls away, and she's like, "We could kill them all. You could rule with me." You know, basically like saying, "Let's come all, and then you're the king, and we're gonna fuck." I don't care if I'm your mom. She'll do anything for power, anything that's advantageous at the moment. And that's a way to diffuse his violence toward her, isn't it? To say, hey, you know, I'll give you the kingdom and I'll fuck you. We're talking about demented fucking people. You know, no wonder Shakespeare dug this story. And he leaves. So, and when he leaves that time, yes, he leaves her. And of course, he goes to Olga. Unfortunately, she goes to the husband. Well, actually, here's what he does. Right after he leaves, he finds the dandy guy, Thorir, sleeping, and he just stabs him right through, all the way through the bed, a few times. That was a satisfying scene, I would say. Another angle that's very Siegfried-like, and they never really, really play it up, but it's like a motif they just, Gaggers couldn't resist having in there, and it's probably in the original Edda, I just don't remember, was he, like Siegfried, has like a special sword forged for him. You know, kind of like Red forges the beast in Mandy. Think about that. That scene is so mythological. You know what I mean? I don't know. I could talk about Mandy forever, but and that scene's much more well shot than this one. It's much more beautiful visually by far than this scene in the Northman. I'm sorry, it just is. Sorry, A24 buddies. Though some of you guys like Mandy and Egger, so that's cool. So the sword is cool, but he doesn't really seem to exploit it. But yeah, he does kill that guy with it, so that's nice. He just kind of whips it around sometimes. You know, it's never really. It's like he's saving it for Fjolnir. He doesn't want it, but he keeps talking about how he must drink blood and blah. You know, and actually, the chapter where this happens is something like the blade drinks or something. And I think that's what he says. I think he says something to that effect before he stabs useless half brother to death. So this is when the movie descends into maudlin madness. There's two fronts here, and this is when the contrast between the two parts of the family it is really made clear, as if Nicole Kidman French kissing him and telling him the truth about everything, about how they're all vile, including her. As if that wasn't enough, the pompous king, of course, he has this, funeral. It's not a funeral pyre, but he has this I don't know what you call it. I do know, but I can't think what it's called. He's laying out his body, and they're all celebrating and having some kind of, well, not a wake, but some kind of Norse thing, ritual, and the witch is there, played by the woman from Mandy, and he is so unbearably pompous. I will avenge my son. I mean, what's funny is when Sarsgaard plays the character, he's just, I'll do this, I'll do this, I'll do this. He's like a laser beam. This other guy's like, he's in a Shakespeare play. He's like, I must let the world know that I'm the most powerful, and I will avenge my poor, spoiled brat son. And it's like, okay, that's it. I mean, these are a bunch of entitled white supremacist, motherfucking, slave-owning pieces of human dog shit. Oh, okay. Dog shit, not human dog shit. Dog shit that walks like a human. I mean, meanwhile, HAMLET doesn't know what to do. So after this ponderous ritual, where the Queen Nicole says, he did it, you must kill him. It's like Lady Macbeth, and they do. They start attacking, and he gets in some good blows, but they take him down, and then they torture him. They string him up down his underwear. They torture him. They beat him in every way imaginable, and his will's not going to be broken. And he tells the guy, he's like, you could kill me now, but I won't die, because I know my fate, and I will die in battle. It's good. It's good stuff. I liked it. I liked his will, because that character and that actor, they're so repellent. It's Fjellner character. I think it's probably the most repellent villain I've seen in a mainstream movie in quite some time. I'll make that dramatic statement. Anyway, I don't want to go over an hour. I'm kind of going out of control here. Just a lot of thoughts. So I'm sorry they're not collected or notes or anything. I apologize. I'd like to hear your thoughts. So they leave him there to go tend to whatever, the rest of the wake for the bastard, whatever kid. It wasn't a bastard, but and these ravens come. And immediately there's two ravens. See, he's up tied up like this. And there's a raven on either side of his hand. I immediately thought about Eugen and Munin, thought and memory, Odin's or Odin's two ravens. And they peck the ropes, and he falls. Then several ravens come around him. And then he starts talking, and mumbling, and he's like, basically like, is he dead? Are the Valkyries going to take him? Is he dying? And then the camera pans up the ravens, and you see above him this figure. And it's a long robe. There's a hand holding like a cane with like a gold ring on. And you see a long white beard, like this, baby. It's about twice as big. And the face is kind of obscured, and there's a big hat. No, it's not Gandalf. God damn it. It's Odin. oh my God. And I was like, this is it, man. This resonates. This is redolent of Siegfried and the Nibelungen line that I love so much. So, I mean, up there, I'm in light. It's getting kind of weird in here. So he gets away, and he gets away with Olga, and they get a boat, and they go to this place of safety, and they have this talk on the way, and it's like, is he going to ever reclaim his humanity? He's pretty much telling her he's stuck as a boy. You know, he's stuck as that boy who was killed. He's like Batman, Bruce Wayne, you know, and it's pretty intense. And she's like, but now you can be free. I see more in you, and you actually see love in his eyes. It's really beautiful, the scenes with them, and of course a lot of love making. And yes, for those who wonder about such things, yes, Anya Taylor-Joy is absolutely totally naked. You don't see any pubic hair, but you see everything else. I mean, not like just like gratuitously, but you know, you won't miss it. In other words, I mean, it's not something you can just go, you know, you'll go, oh, you know, there's time to go. I see, she's a very beautiful young woman. So, very white, pale, perfect for this part. And she reveals to him well, he has a vision. He's had this vision before of the world tree. Effects are great. I interpret it as Yggdrasil, the world tree, but it's also his family tree. Because earlier you see these kind of falling figures. You've seen like Ethan Hawke. You've seen him rising. And then you see the vision. The first time you see it, it's these two children, a boy and a girl. And then it cuts before you really see the girl who's slightly above the boy. And then he realizes that they're tied by blood. At first I thought, does he mean they're related? They're on the same family tree. And then he said, if they find out, they will surely kill you. But then I realized it's just they're speaking about it in a melodramatic way, using the tree and the thread. The Norns, they talk a lot about the Norn fates in this, which is cool as shit. She's pregnant with twins. He says, they are twins. He says, your son will be a king. I think my light might be going out. Let me pause this and see what's up. Let's see how it goes. And he decides to leave her there, even though they'll probably never see each other again. Because she's like, you must choose between. She's like, I feel like you're at a point where you have to choose between a path of vengeance and a life of kindness, you know. And he said, I choose both. I don't know. I mean, does he think he's going to make it back alive? Maybe. Or does he think this is a sacrifice, that he got her to safety and their children? And so that gives him hope, because it's like, she is a good person and a witch, you know, and just a brilliant divine feminine kind of character. And I know this does sound corny because of all these romantic comedies, but yeah, she kind of completes him. You know, there's a duality there, and it's, to me, it's quite powerful, because it's like, we're going to start a clean slate. Now, this son is not his son. I will be reborn in this son, and this son will not suffer what I did. And this son and daughter's mother, these children's mother, will not be like Nicole Kidman's character. Olga will be a good woman, not a treasonous, power-hungry slattern. And so he swims back, of course. You know, he says it a tough way. He's strong. So he swims back, and he goes for it. He goes for his mom. Well, he goes to find her, and she attacks him with a sword. And she slices him kind of superficially on the arm, swings at him again, and he counters her, and she's insane. She wants him to die so bad, because she already told the husband, kill him, kill him. I mean, she's like that. She's like, and her hair is really, 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 really long. She's like a insane older witch. Though, you know, unlike Bjork and Olga, she's not a witch. She's not a good force of magic. You know, a sharer of beautiful vision. she herself is like a nightmare come to life. And so he stabs her right through the fucking middle. That's great. So awesome. And what's cool and interesting and adds a certain valence to it is she's last thing she says is thank you. And so that gives you this spin. Maybe everything she told him before was true, but maybe she did still want to be free of that guy. Maybe that's why she said, HAMLET, kill him and you and I will rule and fuck. Or maybe she feels guilty, finally, that she's lived this horrible, disgusting existence. And he's freed her, he's released her. So I thought that was cool. And then the little boy, little Lord Fauntleroy jumps on him and stabs him with a knife a few times. And he does a Conan on him, where, old Conan comics, Conan would swing, the sword would come down and you wouldn't see who he killed because it was comics code, but they were dead. He swings the boy and he swings the sword, and that's it. So, dude, if Fjolnir comes upon this, and he says, meet me at the gate of hell. Again, he seems to know where that is. Or I don't know. And I don't know what they're talking about. And he drags their bodies away. And this guy's, you just hate this guy. He's such a, he tries to be so self-righteous. Like, I can kill anyone I feel like, but, don't kill my family or all, And it's like, dude, this is survival, man. You're in the dark ages, man. This is every man and woman for himself. This is fucking social Darwinism at its worst. I mean, and he acts like an entitled fucking pompous, ass King George type character. But I will say this, he is in good fighting shape for a man who'd probably be well into his 40s. And again, we do get to see his muscles and his butt and everything again. So they meet at the gate of hell, and they're naked for the most part, from what I can tell. The lighting's kind of weird, and there's like these little fire pits around there. Like, I think there was a volcano nearby, and I guess that's why it was gate of hell. I don't know if this has any geographical meaning to Scandinavia, or if, Eggers is kind of just, creating his own little world, and that's cool too. I think one of my best lights is going out. So let me finish this up anyway. And they fight, and finally he wounds, the Fjolnir wounds our man pretty hard. He slices him across here. So his arm's pretty useless. He hasn't cut off any limbs, but and then he just starts breathing. And it's just camera, and the guy's got the sword on him. He's like, just going to kill him any second. And the look on this guy's face, and he's like so happy, so satisfied, that it's really disgusting, because that character's all about power over another person who's helpless. Really, that's what more can you ask for from a villain, is to destroy someone like that who thrives on, his power is that he thrives on the helplessness of those beneath him. He torments them, he tortures them. I mean, after his son's killed, I forgot to mention, he just randomly starts slitting slaves' throats to see if they did it. It's fucked up as hell. So anyway, I could talk about this movie a while. There's a lot of stuff in it I hadn't really thought that was in there. But to make a long story short, HAMLET gets it together, but the very moment he slices off the motherfucker's head, the guy's sword goes into him, and it's in side view. The head cutting off is elegant, beautiful effect, because he slices and the sword goes into him, and he kind of doesn't move. He's still alive, barely. But the other guy, it just looks so clean, and the body just slumps, to where it's like, to where he's just nothing. And that's kind of, to me, the message. After all that he thought he was, he's nothing. Unfortunately, HAMLET also falls. But he sees the visions as he's dying, and his eyes get bright. And for the first time, you see him almost smile. And he sees visions of his children, and the daughter has like a crown and has long blonde hair like Anya or Joy, and she's very reminiscent to me of Kriemhild and Die Nibelungen, the queenly outfit. I don't know if that was on purpose, but I thought it was beautiful. And then the next thing is the Valkyrie comes. Now, I forgot to mention a key scene, probably the most coolest shot in the movie. When he gets saved by Odin and the Ravens, before he hooks back up with Olga, he is on the back of a Valkyrie's horse. I don't know how I could forget this. And at first you're like, is it a vision? Is he imagining it? He's kind of like this. And so, this horse is riding, but the horse doesn't have wings like you would expect. The horse is riding on air, and then it goes over a mountain and down, and you're like, of course he's fucking with you. Like, he's going to fall into the crevasse. But then the horse just starts riding and rides upward and upward. And then you see a close-up of the Valkyrie. And an intense, wild-looking actress. Her makeup is wild. The actress has braces, which I thought was so bizarre, but cool. And her eyes, she has these contact lenses. Oh my God, and her appearance. And she's like making these sounds. She has incredible armor. So in the end, that Valkyrie, you don't see her up close, but it appears to be the same Valkyrie and horse, ride him up into this kind of celestial thing. And there it is. There's like a doorway. And when they get to the doorway, it's the end. And that was kind of a sad ending. I think I might cry. Because he went to Valhalla. He told the guy, he said, you could kill me now, but I won't die. I will die in battle. Everything he foresaw happened, even though it meant his own death. So we have a character who seems very animalistic, very one note, whatever, and yet is extremely spiritual. So I don't want to go any longer. I shoot these long videos. Think about what I've said, though. Love or hate this movie, let me know. I find in going back over it a lot of value to it that I didn't find at first. I watched it, to be honest, over like 4 nights due to my attention span and health and work. But I was very rewarded. Last night I watched like the last 45 minutes solid. So check out The Northman. I overall give it a thumbs up. I'm not going to get the whole Eggers is a genius and he's the greatest of this. To me, this has nothing to do with that. This is a singular work, but I think for its novelty, if that's the right word, The Witch is his greatest work. I think for his audacity, The Lighthouse is his greatest work. But I think for emotional power, just sheer power, I think The Northman is his greatest work. So it's kind of an interesting trilogy. So rock on, my friends.